Hello, hello, and welcome back. Welcome back especially for me because I've done this video once before. And that resulted in me actually creating permanent reverb within the recording. So I'm having to do this recording all over again. This has been a very bad month for me. I am not in a good state at the moment. But I wanted to get a video done for October, and there's only one day left, and it's this day, so I've got to record this in the morning and upload it, and then put it up in the afternoon. That is my only option, so I've got to get this done. So, if you cannot tell, in this particular video, I am not using Paint Tool Sai as I usually do. I have purchased and I'm trying out Clip Studio Paint EX. Spoilers, I am not particularly impressed with it. Anytime that you move, especially with drawing, anytime that you move from one program to another, you're going to hit a bunch of hurdles. And I'll talk about them. I'll talk about them as they come up. I don't look forward to doing that again. But you can tell that I'm like struggling with even the draft work because nothing is really set up correctly. I spent an hour on stream on Picardo doing nothing except for changing the UI elements and moving them around and trying to figure out what everything even does. So that results in the sort of weird UI that you see before you. Because there are so many weird things about Clip Studio Paint. It would be so boring for me to just talk about them. So I will. To some degree anyways. But the gist of it is that you eventually have to find sort of a comfort zone with what you're doing. And for me, that comes down to, I need to be able to create a draft easily, and I need to be able to create a final line work easily. And then after that, I need to be able to color something in and shade it. That's the only thing that I want. If you ever wonder why I use Paint Tool Sai, it's because it's very easy. Like, there's almost nothing to it. And by the way, whenever I was doing this draft, I realized about nowish that I had drawn this same exact pose, and I think fairly recently, I can't remember what it was, but I do remember that I've done it basically the same thing fairly recently. I've been doing a lot of these recently because I enjoyed the joke. But especially with Winnie, I'm drawing Winnie, by the way. If you don't know, there's an old cartoon called Ghoul School that was released back in like the 90s, and it was a Scooby-Doo film. It's one of three of the red shirt Scooby-Doo cartoons, I think. It's really not important, but the gist of it is that Scooby and Shaggy go to a monster school that's inhabited by these little monster girls. And they're just like ordinary girls that just so happen to be monsters. And that's sort of a meme thing that took off on 4chan, and as a result, I sort of participated in that a little bit. I took a sort of loose redesign that wore a flannel shirt that I can't remember who came up with it. I struggle to remember every time, and I don't think I ever knew, so I don't know why I struggled to remember. Lynx? I can't remember. But another artist was doing sort of loose interpretations with this flannel shirt, and I took that idea and I ran with it and more popularized it as a result. The history of this is very loose. So as a result, I became more associated with the design. I guess you could say that I created more elements of the design, but the general gist of it is that while this design is known for being from me, the idea of it having a flannel shirt and all this other stuff is more of a community thing. It's one of these weird modern problems with online community creations of characters. Ugh. Anyways. Winnie is my character, in other words. This character from a completely unrelated Scooby-Doo thing that happened, oh my god, like 30 years ago almost. Oh, I don't like that. Okay, so I have a couple of other Winnie videos on. I usually draw them whenever I'm not feeling particularly well, or whenever it's just October. This one aligns pretty well because I haven't been feeling well, and also it's October. So as a result, here we are. I'll go into the whole details of why I'm not feeling too well, but this video, I've already recorded this video once. I don't want to just ramble about my problems yet again. I'm the kind of person that I don't really like to talk about myself too much. Sometimes people react with shock to that because, well, you're a content creator. Like, yeah, I'm a content creator. I have to talk about something. So naturally, I'm going to come up whenever I'm the only person here. I don't know why that's so shocking. But there's a lot of things that you guys don't know that's been going. Here, we'll do a thing once. I'll do a thing once where I actually talk about upfront with all the shit that's been happening to me. Okay, so, but first with this video, I just want to say that the general theme of this video, I hope, will be keep it simple. Keep it simple. That was the emergent theme of my prior attempt to record this. Keep things simple. Overly complicating things only creates complications, believe it or not. This is the thing I like about Paint Tool Sci. It's a very, very exceedingly simple program. If you want to draw a picture, you can draw a picture. And that's all there is to it. Okay, so what's been happening to me? If you didn't know, I've had a lot of weird shit happen to me lately. Russian hacker got into my Twitch account. He took that over for a few hours. He got into my PayPal as well. Transferred all the money and that out and converted it into rubles, which is kind of hilarious, rubles. And so I reported that to PayPal. The gist of the Twitch thing is that because I'm an online community creator, I had the power of Twitch and Twitter on my side. So as a result, I could just go to Twitter and just say, hey, this shit's been going on. Everyone go there and report it. So as a result, and here I'm probably Googling something, trying to figure something out. I was doing this a lot in this video. Clip Studio Paint. Kind of hard to figure out how things work in it sometimes. So as a result, there's going to be a lot of just sitting here on the screen wondering what the hell's going on. But eventually the Twitch thing got sorted out. It didn't take too long. The Twitch people were not that comprehensive, so I found a few things that they didn't. Like, I mentioned to them, hey, is there anything else that needs to be looked at? And they're like, oh, yeah, it looks like here he changed your payout information. So if we had not, if you had not asked and we had not looked, then all of your future payouts would have been going to him and one of his stolen email addresses. Also, another thing that I found was that he had used my Prime sub to sub to some guy who had not had any activity on his page for 4 years. So that's probably another stolen account. I'd say it's probably a stolen account because no one's that stupid. Because you can just Google the guy's name and it shows that he has an active YouTube account and an Instagram where you can just see pictures of him and his family and girlfriend and stuff. So if I were to be a malicious dumb primate asshole and go, there he is, and run off and start trying to harass him, it would be a big issue for him. And I'm just making the assumption that no one is that stupid. Especially someone that's this comprehensive. But anyways, again, I normally don't talk about this sort of stuff. I've been harassed and given death threats and all sorts of stuff because I'm a YouTube creator, and that's just, it comes with the territory, unfortunately. People get angry over the stupidest shit. So, I eventually got them to unsub me from that guy, although the token for it gets lost forever. Hopefully he didn't get any money out of it, but whatever. So the only money he actually ended up getting, the only progress he made was with PayPal. Twitch was pretty quick about things, so I didn't have to worry too much about it. That's all back under my control. The PayPal also got back under my control pretty quickly. Changed all my passwords. By the way, this is important. Go check to see if you have two-factor authentication on all your stuff right now. Whether it's PayPal, whether it's Twitch, whether it's Twitter, whether it's your bank account information. Anything you can think of, go check it right now. Even if, like me, you thought, well, that's the most secure thing that I have to worry about. Of course it's on, because I remember one day going through and just turning that on everything. So, of course it's on. But you didn't actually check. That was my problem. So, whenever I realized that this stuff was happening, it's like, what the hell's going on? That is on, but it wasn't. So whenever they managed to, I have no idea how they got a hold of the password. So whenever they managed to do that, then naturally, of course, they managed to get in pretty easily. So go check that right now. That is an issue. Go check that out. For anyone, even if you're like a dumb asshole that's listening to this right now because of some sort of deep malice in your heart, your desire to see me not succeed in life or whatever, if you're like, yes, good, suffer. You too. You, the stupid asshole that has nothing better to do with your life. Go check your two-factor authentication too. Like, just for the hell of it. Because everyone needs to have that shit on. So, as a result, that's how they managed to get in. PayPal has not been helpful. I called them, which thankfully, there's kind of an irony in it, is Twitch has no means of calling them. You have to do everything online, which is a huge security issue. You can't call someone and just talk to a human being. You have to do everything via their Twitter. Like, it's insane. You have to contact their Twitter and then wait for operational hours for someone on the Twitter to wake up and start reading messages. It's so bizarre. I can't possibly understand how that's supposed to work. But anyways, PayPal does have a phone number that you can call. The people that I talked to, the actual human beings, were fairly useful in the sense that every one of them believed me instantly. Not as a policy, but you could tell they're like, oh gosh, that's awful. I'll look at this stuff because they're always, you could tell at first with all of them, they were like somewhat suspicious because I'm sure there's all sorts of weird frauds involved. But eventually after I went through and gave them all the information, then they were like, oh yeah, this is a clear-cut case. It's very obvious that someone got into your account, converted all the funds in your account to rubles, which there wasn't that much in the first place. But whenever I logged in, because they're in rubles, like a ridiculous monopoly currency they used in Russia, it was a huge inflated number. So as a result, whenever I first saw the huge inflated number, I was like, oh my god. That was like the only panic moment really for me. But as soon as I realized, oh, it's just rubles, then I thought, oh, so it's just like this small, relatively small amount of money, so I didn't have to worry about it too much. Anyways, hear me trying to create a brush for the first time. Oh, it takes a while. So all the people that I talked to over the phone they believed me pretty much instantly. And all of them assured me, no, this will not be an issue. You're almost certain to get your money back. Even Wooly messaged me and was talking to me about his problems a few years ago. And eventually he got his money back as well. With me, what happened was I talked to the first person on the phone. After I hung up, literally a few minutes later, I got a message saying, your claim has been denied. Everything is A-OK. This is perfectly normal. So I immediately had to call them back. They said, oh, I'm sorry. That's just our automated... That's our automated system. It's stupid. This is our computer just looking at stuff and just making stupid assumptions. We'll direct you to an actual person through our appeals service. So we went into appeals. So as a result of going into appeals, I had to wait numerous days. And in the process, one of the things that the person did that got into my account was, in addition to transferring all the money out, they also attempted to move money from my actual bank account out of my bank account and back into the PayPal so that they could continue stealing money forever, right? And they transferred $500, I think it is, because that's a standard amount that you can usually transfer out of a account without it triggering, like, something's wrong. Like, this is standard protection, so you can tell that they're used to doing this sort of thing, because that's the only way of really getting away with it consistently. So they were really banking on they're really banking on people not checking their online stuff that often and being able to just slowly steal all their money over a long period of time. So I told them, also cancel that pending bank transfer because I didn't make it. So as a result of that, I was very paranoid about that. So the next day after they said, oh, no, there's no way that transfers, it'll still show up, but it's not going to go through because we won't allow it to. This is buried in with the existing claim that you have. So nothing's going to happen with that. So suspicious, the next day I checked my bank and I saw that the transfer... At first, I called the bank, and they said there was no transfer existing because even though it showed up on the PayPal, it had not been attempted yet. In other words, even though the guy had said transfer this amount of money, their system, the person behind the counter, as it were, at PayPal, had not actually issued it yet. So it had not occurred. So that tells you that even though they said, oh, there's no way this will go through, someone had to still actively make it go through on their end. So the next day, I go into my bank account information and I look around and I see, oh, look, that transfer that they said would never occur is occurring right now. So I call my bank and I can't do anything because we had been working all that day and the account information. Excuse me. I've been working all that day, and the branch offices had been closed, so I couldn't actually do anything with the accounts. I would actually have to drive down somewhere. It was somewhat late in the afternoon. Our bank branches here closed really early. So as a result, I just couldn't do anything that day. So I said, okay, I'm not driving down to start signing papers to stop transfer of money to an account that I have possession of. And I've already changed all my passwords and 2-factors on, etc. So it shouldn't be really much of a concern either way. So I said, okay, I will just call PayPal and chew their asses out because they allowed this to happen whenever they said that they wouldn't. So I called them again, and the PayPal representative said, okay, even though your bank says that there is a transfer that is trying to occur, it isn't actually. It's just that the automated system opened the attempt to do so, but someone still has to sign off for it. So what we said is still true. Please believe us. So I was like, okay, because I still had it in my head of maybe they know what they're doing, and even if something goes wrong, I can still handle it pretty easily, unless there's some incredibly bizarre scenario where they have absolute control over every element of my life, which is not true. But whenever you get paranoid, you get paranoid. So, a couple days later, which is today, this happened literally like a couple hours ago, which is why it's fresh on my mind. I wake up, and as I have been doing the past week or so, I think, that was a good sleep. Oh, wait, there's a bunch of shit I have to worry about. So I roll over out of bed and start worrying about shit. And I was like, well, I better go check my email. Checked my email, 2 new emails from PayPal, saying that all the activity of the guy transferring money out of my account, converting it into rubles, and then leaving a mocking message thanking me for funding his Steam game purchases, which is typically how Russians do this. They will steal your money and then immediately turn them into like gaming cards that they can use on Steam. It's a bizarre thing, and Steam doesn't do anything about it. Like they're giant corporate assholes too, so they just don't give a shit. So as a result, the money is immediately lost no matter what you do. I think that the only thing PayPal can actually do is just reimburse you for the money, which is probably the reason why that they denied the claim, is because they would be out of pocket, and they were like, well, fuck him. Who cares? Fuck him. So the person, they assured me that this time it would not be a computer, it would be a person doing this. A person evaluated the problem, noted that noted the mocking derogatory message left by the Russian man, noted that it had been transferred and converted into rubles, and it had not been done by me, and etc. and so forth, all these proofs, and said, nah, this is pretty normal. This is normal stuff. So as a result, I'm out that few, like, I think it's like a couple $100 or something, which is not great, but, you know, it's a couple $100. He can buy like 3 games or something. So as a result, PayPal fucked up. So I have a very low opinion of PayPal now. I could continue to harass them, but I really get the impression that they would just create more anxiety in my life and not really accomplish anything. Whereas I feel like stating this in a video and mentioning it every time that I stream, and anytime the subject comes up of bad experiences online, I mention PayPal, I figured that would do a lot more damage to them than it does to me. So, fuck PayPal. You completely failed me on every level. The only people involved that were actually helpful were the people on the phone that really had no control over the situation either way. They were fairly understanding. I don't know how much they actually helped me, probably really not that much. The only thing they really seem to be good at is just assuring you that everything is a-okay, and like, I understand, this is which is probably like something that they tell them to do in training. Like, just pretend that you understand their situation, like, calm them down, try and make sure that they don't do anything crazy, like get lawyers involved or anything. That's probably what's actually going on. But at least one of the ladies seemed like she was nice and understanding. But yeah, fuck PayPal. They completely flubbed the entire situation. The thing that I was most concerned about was not necessarily them denying the claim so much as telling them, don't let that bank transfer go through, and them saying, no, of course it won't, sir. Of course it won't send the bank transfer through. Just go ahead. Fuck him. Who cares? Just do it. In other words, giving lip service while making absolutely no effort whatsoever to correct the situation. So I will give them hell for the rest of my life as a result of them fucking that up. And they deserve it. If I can avoid using PayPal from this point forward, then I will definitely avoid using PayPal from this point forward. As soon as a more reliable alternative that is widely used presents itself, I will move on to that alternative. But for the time being, I really don't have a choice in using them because PayPal is sort of a minor monopoly. Mainly in the sense that sites just don't use any of the alternatives. There's actually like 20 alternatives to PayPal that I could find. But they're just so new or they're not used too much that there's no options. Like, there's no point to using them anyways. Anyways, okay. So that brings me to Clip Studio Paint. Strange transition. Normally I use Psy. By the way, if you can see my little cat. I always find that funny. I found that out in the last time I was trying to record. Whenever I like lean my head back and take a drink, his eyes get wide and he opens his little mouth like glug, 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 glug. Sorry, that's funny to me. Usually I use Paint Tool Psy. Clip Studio Paint, the reason why I got it is because Psy itself it's not like a dead program, but they don't really work on it too much. The thing I like about Psy is that it's very, very simple. Like, if you want to just draw a picture and get it done, you can do that real damn fast. There's lots of very specific things that I want to complain about in regards to Clip Studio Paint, because Clip Studio Paint seems to be sort of a mesh of Photoshop and Paint Tool Psy. It isn't but if you were making a comparison, that's basically what it is. It's sort of a mesh between those two things. Because it has the general workflow and infrastructure and stuff, however you want to describe it, of Paint Tool Psy, but it also has all of the overcomplications and baffling, ridiculous interface problems that Photoshop has. And anytime that I bring this up in regards to Photoshop, all the people that are like, yay, Photoshop! I'm raising my hands, by the way. Yay, Photoshop! Yay! Man, why does my mouth flap go crazy? Here. No, don't Why are you doing that? Ah. See that? Damn, Face Rig sucks ass. By the way, Face Rig is going to release another version of itself as a new program, and they're going to charge a subscription fee for it. So, Face Rig, I'm not impressed by you. And the fact that you are immediately trying to jump ship into another program that you can try to charge people out the ass for is incredibly disgusting. I've already mentioned that to everyone that I can find. Everyone is also equally disgusted with you. And there are many free versions of the same general idea of face tracking and rigging and so forth and so on that are coming out. I think even NVIDIA is making one of them. So that attempt is going to fail miserably, and you essentially killed your own company. Go fuck yourself too, Face Rig. Anyways, Face Rig kind of sucks, but I figured I may as well try to use my little kitty one or two more times. I would really like to have a 3D model of it, but I can't 3D model, and I don't have time to go learn to do it. And I don't have any money in my PayPal account to pay anyone to do it right now either. I have like $1 in there now. The guy left like $1.70 for some bizarre reason. There's probably some particular reason. Like that will probably tip off the PayPal bots if you take all the money, so they leave like a pittance in there or something. Who knows? Anyways, but yeah, anytime that you say these things about Photoshop, like Photoshop does this, it should be doing this. People will say, well, it's not a painting program, stupid, and then they spit in your face. It's in my fantasy. But Clip Studio Paint actually does the exact same things as Photoshop, but this time it is an illustration program. It should not be doing these things, and I will give examples of that in the future. But most of the problem that I've had with it is that anytime that you move to a new program, you're going to have problems. But with Clip Studio Paint, there's a lot of minor things. Like one, I can't get the brush to look the way that I want it to. To me, this drawing would have been way better if I had just done it in Psy. Because there's nothing at all that Clip Studio Paint EX can do that would have been useful to me in creating this. That is better than what Psy can do. Because the coloring process would have been way better. Like, when I'm coloring in this, even if you're operating on unique layers, Clip Studio Paint does this annoying thing that occurs in some programs where when you try to, like, paint on that layer, it will look at other layers and go, oh, there's like green over here. Let's drag some green in here. And you're like, no, that is a different layer. What are you doing? You shouldn't be sampling things that are not visible to you. Stop doing that. So you have to like get really close. I'm sure that there's, oh my God, if I could show you the settings right now. There are like subsettings. There's a tool menu and then there's a subtool menu. And then you can go into the properties of the subtools, and there's even more settings below that. It's one of the most overly complex, ridiculous things I've ever seen in my life. It is absurd, the amount of things that you can do in there. And most of them don't even really do anything. They're just, like, whenever I was trying to start using this brush, the thing I was having the most problems with is that whenever I put down the brush and started drawing the line, for the first second or so, nothing happens. Like, I would start drawing the line and it would just be invisible. There's nothing there. It's just white. By the way, here, I'm trying to change the color of the line from black to, like, something that's just slightly saturated. And in Paint Tool Psy, you could just make a layer and then make the, like, say you want your lines to be green. You would just make a new layer that's above your line and then go between the two layers, like line layer, and then there's a layer one above it or something. You would click on the little bitty area that's between layer one and the line layer, and it would tell the program, hey, it's basically masking. Anything that is visible on layer one will only show up if there is information on the line layer. So in this case, I would like make everything this sort of a darker shade of red instead of just black. That way I could change all the line work from black into that dark shade of red. And it would be done. Like, that's all you have to do. Just make a new layer, fill the area with one color, hold down Alt, click in between the two layers, and you're done. Then you can merge them down if you want to, after you make your adjustments. Or you can paint on that layer as like a mask and just paint each individual line the color that you want it to be. It's very, very simple. In Clip Studio Paint, you can't do that. You have to, like... I never really found a good way of doing it. But I ended up having to click on my line layer with a wand tool, make it contiguous, invert the selection, make a new layer that contains the color that I want, then use the selection of the line layer to create a mask on the new layer that technically does not preserve any of the opacity of the line itself. So as a result, I lost all of my opacity on the line layer. Just because Clip Studio Paint insists on doing it the same way that Photoshop does. So that's what I'm doing right now. This ends up fucking up my entire opacity levels on my lines. Nothing to do about it, though. It's just what it is. Coloring is also a problem in this program. Like blending, the blending is terrible. For some reason, I really expected the blending to be really good in this program compared to Psy, because in Psy, it's not particularly great either. Like in Psy, I had to ignore what its blending tool was and just make up my own, which ended up being like a airbrush variant or something. And I experimented with a bunch of different things trying to come up with a way to blend, and it turned out the blend tool in Clip Studio Paint is the best option because all of them are just awful. But most of the... like, it has like 4 blending options. If you see in the little toolbar over there, there's a paint can, and below it is like a gradient box, and below that is a line. Up above the paint can, there are like 2 little raindrop things. That's what I'm using right now. That's the like 4 or something different blending options that you have. All of them are terrible, because most of them just push the color around, that's not blending, it's smudging. Like, that's how it's done in Photoshop. I really get the impression that they tried to emulate Photoshop and all of its faults. So as a result, it can sort of blend, but you really have to fidget with the settings. It's not very good. It doesn't look particularly great. There's also a lot of weird issues with the way that, like the smaller the brush size is in this program, the more difficult it is to work with it. There's just so many weird things about it. Also, here's another thing that I want to bitch about. Whenever you make a new layer, in Paint Tool Psy, this is a very, very little thing, but it really goes to show just how much of an asshole you can be. In Paint Tool Psy, whenever you make a new layer, like layer 1, say you have a line work, you did your line work and it's named line, and you make a new layer, layer 1, because you noticed, oh, there's a little line that I didn't draw. So you draw a little line, and you have it on a new layer because, you just want to be safe. You don't want to screw up your existing line layer. So you make all the adjustments you want to make to the new line, then you go, I want to merge this down. In Paint Tool Psy, you merge it down, and it'll rename that line layer to line layer. Like, it just merges the names down and goes, whatever's at the bottom, that's what its name is. In Photoshop, it's the reverse. So in Photoshop, whenever you make a new layer, it'll be like layer 512, because it just keeps moving the number up, because Photoshop is fucking stupid. And whenever you merge layer 512 down with line layer, it will rename line layer to layer 512. And in Clip Studio Paint, it does the exact same thing. It renames your line layer to layer 512. Thankfully, unlike Photoshop, there is a very specific button that just force merges selected layers, or it merges one layer to the bottom layer without worrying about the naming conventions at all. So eventually I figured that out and I started using that button exclusively. Because if you do it by hand or you do it by any other way, it fucks up the naming conventions. What a month. What a fucking month this has been. This is normally my favorite time of the year. I really like this time of year normally because it's when all the extroverts go away. Because it's cold, I can't go party anymore. Like, ever since I was a kid, that's always been the problem. Summer was the... I always associated summer with... It's the season for morons. And whenever I was younger, I thought, well, maybe I'm in the wrong for some reason. Because there's people that I consider to be friends, and, you know, they're like summer people. And coincidentally today, I have since learned that all the people that were summer people whenever I was growing up are actually inhuman monsters or are fucking stupid beyond reason. And it's not because they like summer, it's just coincidentally all the really, really stupid people are also stupid about other things. And that includes being summer people. Sorry if you're a summer person, I'm not saying that you are stupid. I'm just saying that in my case, it just so happened that all the people that disagreed with me ended up also, coincidentally, not because of me, just so happening to also be like dumb inbred Kentucky idiots that have shitty politics and fire their guns in the air and hate black people and gay people and are obsessed with like trying to control the world to like preserve their old-fashioned like 1940s moral code that they haven't been able to let go of. It's that. Like, that's this entire area. I don't like this area. I would certainly never enact violence of any kind on this area, or on anyone for that matter. I just really would like to leave this area. Thankfully, if I wanted to leave this area, I wouldn't have to use PayPal money to do it. Yeah, like, for reasons not that. Like, I'm very... Like I said, I don't really like to talk about myself. I certainly don't like talking about personal issues or like finances or anything. I hate, like, even like people that I would consider to be more close personal friends when they ask me about like what's been going on. I heard something about that. I don't want to mention it. I don't want to explain it. I hate having to explain it. Like, I didn't mention it to my parents, like, especially, or like brother or anything. We all live in sort of the same area. I'm not going to tell them anything about that shit. Because, one, they're dumb as bricks. They can't help either way. They don't know anything about online stuff. The only thing that they would do is start screaming and, like, stomping around the house, and they would remember it for later. Well, you did this. Like, it would just be a burden. They can't help. They're not going to be helpful. They're just too dumb. They're too angry. They're like dumb primates, in other words. So there's no point in telling them anything. So I'm just alone most of the time. Anytime that I have problems, I'm completely alone. I don't have a significant other. I don't really care to be around too many people. The only resources I really have to work with are just people online, like fans or just other content creators. And since I don't like to talk about myself and I don't like to talk about my problems, even whenever this stuff happened, I didn't want to mention it on my Twitter. Like, I used on Twitter the Twitch support thing because I had to. Like, there were no other options. You can't talk to anyone otherwise. But I noticed that it wasn't getting any traction. It had been hours and they never gotten back to me. So eventually I talked to Nick from Bitter Bits. He knows about, like, connectivity things. He used to do networking. And he's a good friend. So as a result, I talked to him. He's like, no. Like, put your tags in the middle of your tweet instead of at the front because they love to ignore those. And I thought, well, I don't want to draw attention to myself. I'm not that personality type. But eventually I did it anyways, and things eventually got done. And I'm sort of having that mentality with this video. Of, I don't want to talk about this stuff. I just don't like to. I just want it to be done and over with and never think about it again. I want to put it behind me. But that's really not how life works, especially whenever you are single, alone, you have idiots for relatives, and there's no one that's going to help you or care about you other than yourself. The only thing you have to work with are maybe friends online. So, I'm telling you this mainly for like, your sake. Like, go turn on your two-factor authentication. Don't overly complicate your lives with a bunch of nonsense. Don't be like Clip Studio Paint. Like Clip Studio Paint, here we go, full image. I could have just, whenever I was making that final pass, that multiply layer, I could have, in Paint Tool Sci, again, just alt-clicked between them and had it just isolate the two layers together. But in Clip Studio Paint, for some reason, you have to make a folder so that it doesn't have pass-through, and then put everything that you want into that folder. But if you're trying to alter, like if you're trying to alter the saturation levels on multiple layers in Paint Tool Sci, you just click all the layers that you want and then adjust them. In Photoshop and in Clip Studio Paint, you would have to put all of them within one contained folder. So if they are not layered in a way that would allow them to work, like if you have like line, hair color, and then you have like skin color or something, and you want to adjust the skin color and the hair color, but not touch anything in between those, then you would have to like duplicate all the other layers and merge them into one layer and then put them in with the existing folder, or make like an adjustment layer or something. Like, it's so complicated. It is so needlessly complicated. In Paint Tool Sci, you could just click on the layer you want to adjust and it's done. Hate that shit. Hate it whenever things get overly complicated. It drives me completely bonkers. And anytime that you start doing drama or something online, or even talking about personal issues, it creates more problems. It creates more drama. Which is why I didn't want to make a video like this. But I will anyways. Don't start shit. Like, don't... Just remember that PayPal is shitty. Don't go starting shit with PayPal. Don't try to find out who the guy was and start trying to start shit like that either. Like, that just creates more problems. Just leave it alone. Let things go back to normal. Some people that will go unknown, that know who they are, whenever crazy shit happens, they're not like me. They can't let it go. If someone says something, then they've got to attack them for the next year and never ever let it go and remember it to their dying day. Like any snippy comment, they gotta comment right back. I'm not like that. I'll just let it go. Which has, in general, made my life much more comfortable, much more relaxed, mostly free of anxiety. The source of my anxiety now was just the fact that I didn't remember two-factor authentication. And the fact that there are so many shitty people in the world, especially right now, that are dead set on attacking all the strawmen in their life and trying to make their lives miserable. Because they themselves are insecure and don't know how to deal with the changing world. That's the secret to what's going on right now. Is that there are a lot of people that are terrified of the world, and their way of dealing with it is to be as aggressive and loud as possible. That's unfortunately how a lot of people are. Anyways. Don't be like Clip Studio Paint. I'll eventually figure out something in regards to it, but... And don't be like Face Rig either. Oh, now it's working. What the hell? Whatever. Anyways. Mind your own business, get your shit sorted together, and enjoy this month for what it is. The best part about this month is just nature. It's being outside. Uncomplicated nature. Where you might walk outside and maybe you'll be eaten by a lion, but probably not. As long as you keep to yourself. That's my lesson for the day. Enjoy the rest of your day. Oh, my little gripe thing, I think, went over fairly well, and my next one is going to be about the durability system in Breath of the Wild. I've got to record footage for it, though, and I've got to write it, so that'll come later. I also think I'll just go ahead and do an LP. I got to wait for everyone to get situated, though, because I think I want to do it with someone else. But I'll probably start on that, because I'm kind of tired of worrying about mega projects all the time. Because I'm also overcomplicating my own work. People just want engagement. They don't necessarily want these giant elaborate animations and things all the time. They're nice to have, but I'm kind of ruining my own life by worrying about them all the time. So, simple things that many people may not like, but I'm sure that most people will. We'll concentrate on that for a while. Okay, have a good day.